Can forgetting to turn on a machine at 6 in the morning ruin your life? What if that forgetfulness led to being humiliated in front of the entire team, your self-confidence being shattered, and never being able to set foot in that workplace again? This morning, a 15-minute lapse of memory became a turning point in the life of a 20-year-old, and now he wants to share what happened that day with you. If you have a similar story, please send it to the email address in the description and let us tell your story in the next video.
My name is Tyler, and I'm going to tell you about what happened to me during my time working at Burger Kingdom in a small California town. What happened that morning was a turning point for me, and I still feel nauseous when I think about that day. I was 20 years old and living in an old motel room in Riverside County. My relationship with my family was never good, and I was trying to stand on my own 2 feet. While taking a few classes at community college, I started working at Burger Kingdom. I had only been working at Burger Kingdom for 2 weeks. My manager, Brian, was a man in his mid-40s, average height, slightly overweight. His hair was thinning on top, and he always wore the same black Burger Kingdom polo shirt. He had a constantly tense expression on his face, and his eyes were small. When talking to someone, he would constantly lean toward that person, approaching almost chest to chest. This made me uncomfortable, but I needed the job. On my first day at work, Brian had shown me around the restaurant. The kitchen was divided into 3 main sections: fry station, prep station, and backline. The heart of the backline was the broiler. The broiler was the most important equipment at Burger Kingdom. This massive stainless steel machine operated with a flame-grilled system. This meant the meats were cooked over an open flame, which gave Burger Kingdom burgers that characteristic grilled taste. The machine was about the size of a refrigerator and had a conveyor system on top. You would place frozen beef patties on the upper part of the machine. The conveyor would slowly pass them over the flames, and on the other side would come out perfectly cooked meats with grill marks. When Brian showed me the broiler, he spoke very clearly. This machine opens at 6 in the morning and closes at 11 at night. If I was coming for the opening shift, my first job should be to turn on this machine. It would take 15 minutes for the machine to heat up, and during those 15 minutes, we could not take orders. 15 minutes meant lost customers. So if I forgot to turn on this machine, it would be a problem for him. At the time, I had nodded and said, I understood, but I had not really taken it seriously. We were just talking about turning on a machine. How hard could it be? My first week went pretty well. I usually came for the afternoon or evening shifts and worked at the fry station. The other employees were good too. Jessica was 19 years old, a cheerful girl with red hair and freckles. Marcus was a 17-year-old black, athletically built kid who talked about the basketball team. Sarah was a 25-year-old blonde, tired-looking woman who had a small child. At the beginning of my second week, Brian told me I would be coming for the opening shift. I would start work at 6 in the morning. That week, I had exams at university and had been studying until late at night. My sleep schedule was completely disrupted. I was stuck between studying, working, and paying bills, but I could not pass up the money. So I said yes. That night, when I lay down in bed, those exams kept running through my head. I did not even think about the broiler. That Tuesday morning, my alarm went off at 5:15. I forced myself up, got ready quickly, and put on my uniform consisting of a dark blue polo shirt and black pants. I put on my name tag that said, Tyler. When people think of California, they think of sunshine. But at 6 in the morning, Riverside was freezing. When I parked in front of a restaurant, it was 4 minutes past 6. Brian was waiting for me inside. His face looked even more tense than usual. He quickly listed the tasks I needed to do that morning. I needed to prepare the front counter, open the registers, check the soda machines, prepare the fry station, and carry supplies to the prep station. As Brian spoke, he kept waving his hand in the air, pointing with his fingers. He said today would be busy and the drive-through line would get long. After showing me the tasks, he went to the office. I got to work at the front counter. I opened the registers, checked the soda machines, prepared the fryers. By 6:45, I had finished almost everything. Just then, Brian came out of the office. His eyebrows were furrowed and his lips were in a tight line. He walked toward me and looked at me silently. Something had gone wrong. He asked if I had checked the back line. I said no. Brian turned and walked to the back line. I followed him. When we arrived at the back line, the sight I saw made me sick to my stomach. The broiler was closed. The machine was cold. I had not turned it on. I had completely forgotten. Achi, that moment, the world collapsed on me. My heart started beating rapidly, and my palms sweated. We stood there for a few seconds. Brian was waiting motionless in front of the machine. I could not say any. If I opened my mouth, I would apologize, but my voice would not come out. Brian stood in front of the broiler. He placed his hand on top of the machine and turned to me. His face was bright red. His eyes had widened, and his breathing had quickened. He started yelling at me. Tyler, you did not turn on the broiler. It is almost 7. The restaurant opens in 7 minutes. Cars will fill the drive-thru. And what am I going to tell them? We cannot make burgers because our new employee forgot to turn on the broiler. The tone of his voice had shocked me. The bridge of my nose went numb, and my eyes started to water. I tried to apologize, but words would not come out of my mouth. I just stood there and looked at him. Brian continued. What did I tell you? What did I tell you on the first day? I told you not to forget to turn on the broiler. I said, this is the most important task. You have been here for 2 weeks, and you still forget to turn on a simple machine. Is this job too hard for you, Tyler? Tell me, is this job too hard for you? I said no. My voice was shaking. I apologized. I said it would not happen again. It will not happen again. Tyler, right now we cannot open the restaurant. Right now we cannot serve customers. These 15 minutes mean lost money. You just threw away my 15 minutes of money. Do you understand this? At that moment, Jessica and Marcus had also arrived at work. Both had entered through the back door and heard Brian's voice. They were standing at the entrance to the back line looking at us. Jessica had a worried expression on her face. Marcus looked shocked. Brian had noticed them, but did not care. He continued yelling. Look! Look! The other employees have arrived! Let them see how incompetent you are. Maybe you will be ashamed and think next time. When I heard this sentence, something inside me broke. He was not just yelling at me. He was humiliating me in front of everyone. I felt my eyes fill up, but I forced myself not to cry. Crying would make everything worse. My breath was cut off. A lump had formed in my throat and swallowing hurt. My whole body had tensed and my hands were in fists. But I could do nothing but stand there, silently. Brian was still talking. You cannot do this job, Tyler. Maybe fast food is not for you. Maybe you should find a simpler job. Because here you cannot even follow simple rules. I could not take it anymore. I apologized again, but this time my voice cracked. Brian noticed this and backed off, as if this was what he wanted. He told me to turn on the broiler and went back to his office. I turned on the machine. My hands were shaking. I pressed the power button on the broiler's control panel. The machine began to hum. The gas flames inside lit up and the conveyor system started moving. We would wait 15 minutes for it to heat up. Jessica came up to me. She touched my shoulder and asked if I was okay. I said I was fine, but my voice was still shaking. Jessica told me that Brian did this to everyone, that I should not take it seriously. But this did not comfort me, because Ryan's words had started spinning in my head. Maybe he was right. Maybe this job was too hard for me. Maybe I should not be here. At 7 o'clock, the restaurant opened. The first cars started coming to the drive-thru. Brian came to the back line and stood at the prep station. He was watching the order screen. When the first order came in, he looked at me and told me to start making burgers. The broiler was now ready. I placed frozen beef patties on the machine's conveyor. The conveyor slowly passed them over the flames. On the other side came out meats decorated with grill marks. I carried them to the prep station and started making burgers. I cut the buns, spread the sauce, added the vegetables, put in the meat, and packaged them. But with every move I made, Brian's words echoed in my head. With every burger I made, I saw his face. With every order that came in, I trembled with the fear that I would make a mistake again. That morning rush hour was terrible. The drive-thru line overflowed outside the restaurant. Orders piled up at the front counter. Brian kept yelling. He said we needed to work faster. that we should not keep customers waiting. Jessica could not keep up with the fries at the fry station. Marcus was mixing up orders at the drive-thru. I was soaked with sweat at the back line making burgers. At 10 o'clock, rush hour ended. Customers decreased. Brian withdrew to his office. I sat down at the back line. My hands hurt, my back had seized up, but most of all, my heart hurt. That day, Sarah came for the lunch shift. She told me she had heard what happened in the morning. She sat down next to me and told me that she had experienced a similar incident in her first weeks, that Brian had yelled at her too. She said I would get used to it over time, but I did not want to get used to it. After that day, every time I came for the morning shift, my first task was to check the broiler. I would check whether the machine was on, whether it had heated up, whether the conveyor was working. I would check 3 times, because I did not want Brian to yell at me like that again. I did not want to be humiliated in front of everyone again, but the damage had already been done. My self-confidence was shattered. I thought I would make a mistake in everything I did. Every day, I thought Brian would come out of his office and yell at me again. Going to work had become torture. I worked at Burger Kingdom for a total of 3 months. At the end of the 3rd month, with Jessica's advice, I found another job. I started working as a cashier at a supermarket chain. The day I resigned, Brian called me to his office. He asked why I was leaving. I told him I had found a better opportunity. Brian nodded and wished me luck. He never apologized. He never mentioned what he had done to me that morning. He acted as if nothing had happened. But I did not forget. I never forgot what I experienced that morning at the broiler. I never forgot Brian's voice, the anger on his face, Jessica and Marcus's shocked looks, the something that broke inside me. Now, 2 years have passed since that incident. I still live in California, but no longer in that small town. I moved to another city and finished community college. Now, I am trying to transfer to a 4-year university. My life is better, more stable, but I still sometimes think about that morning. Sometimes in my dreams I am standing at the broiler and the machine is off. Brian is yelling at me and I cannot do anything. Then I wake up and remember it is not real. That day taught me many things. But the most important thing was this: no one, for whatever reason, has the right to humiliate another person in front of everyone. Brian could have gently warned me when I made a mistake. He could have pulled me aside and talked. But he chose to yell, to humiliate, and that showed his character, not mine. If you find yourself in a similar situation, please know that the fault is not with you. Mistakes happen. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is how you correct them and what lessons you learn from that mistake. And if a manager is belittling you, insulting you, not knowing your worth, leave there. No job is worth losing your self-confidence.
Tyler's story is unfortunately just one of thousands. In the fast food industry, in the retail sector, in the service sector, hundreds of employees are subjected to similar treatment every day. Forgetting to turn on the broiler was a mistake, yes. But does that mistake justify humiliating a person in front of everyone, destroying their self-confidence? Never. If you have an experience like Tyler, like Brian, or like anyone in this story, share it with us in the comments or through our email address. Maybe in the next video, we will be telling your story.